Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us today on Newsmakers. Well, during these unusual times, there are still programs that are continuing to serve our community, and today we're focusing on the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks. Media Relations Director Chris Pilgrim, thank you for being here today.
Judy, it's great to see you, and thanks for having me.
Blood donation's one of those things that it didn't stop when the pandemic hit.
No, you can count on that. The need for blood never stops. It may slow down, as we saw during the pandemic. The need for blood slowed down because, quite frankly, our hospitals slowed down in the surgeries and the things they were performing. But they're back up to normal now, and the need for blood has never been greater.
So I want to talk a little bit today about the situation and how you've handled it and what people are looking at. I know that I receive emails from you and your center about different needs, and you have different appeals at different times. So pretty much hospitals are back in business now, and you have that demand. It's kind of a supply and demand situation.
Yeah, take it on kind of a timeline. Whenever the pandemic hit in March and everything virtually shut down, the needs of our hospitals waned a great deal, but so did our ability to get blood donations. We get a great deal of our donations from schools. All the schools and universities are shut down. Our businesses were closed. People working remotely. We've got to have people gathered in one spot in order to get donations. So virtually all of our mobile donations ceased, to the tune of about over 9,000 donations lost from March until the present. So, but it was fortunate that the hospital needs weren't so bad either.
They stopped their elective surgeries.
Right. So now the pandemic seems to be easing a little bit. Where people are back in school, we're kind of easing back into this, what we call the new normal, right? Hospital blood usage has gone back up, but our ability to get blood in the door has kind of stayed the same. It's gone up a bit, but not enough to meet that need. So we're in a real challenge here to try to meet hospital needs and to try to ramp back up blood donations so it meets the same rate.
Well, today I'd like to cover some of those areas. And you mentioned the role of schools, the impact. Was that a majority or a big percentage of how you used to get donations?
Boy, during the school year, about 50% of our total donations come from area colleges, universities, and high schools. Now, we have a really robust program for our schools, and we do that for a number of reasons. We're trying to train the donors of the future. So by introducing them into blood donation as a safe and healthful activity at a young age, it's hopeful that we can create donors for life. We give hundreds of thousands of dollars out in area scholarships to our area high schools. We have programs where leadership workshops where students learn to put on a big event such as a blood drive in terms of marketing and things like that. Valuable stuff for kids to learn, right? Of course, the good part about it is they give their great gift of blood, and it goes to save lives. But so nowadays, colleges and universities are operating at diminished capacities. They are back, but back on a staggered schedule. High schools are basically the same way. Now remember, we've got to have people here and present in order to donate. So I'll use, for instance, a drive we had recently at Missouri State University. Usually over that 3-day drive, we would get 400 donations. This year, we looked at somewhere less than 200 donations, so about a 50% drop, and that's just because people aren't on campus. We aren't able to market in some of the ways we can. We can't hand flyers out. We can't meet with the Greek organizations and get
your usual way of getting the word out to people.
Right. We can Zoom call and Zoom conference call, but the effectiveness of that is sometimes less than what you'd like. So we're challenged to get the word out. We're challenged to have enough people present to be able to pull off blood drives like this. What it means is, if we get 50% of our donations from area high schools and colleges, if they're not able to deliver that 50%, we've got to go find it somewhere else, because again, hospital usage is just the same, right?
So you have to have that plan B. What can we do?
Plan B for us is just trying to get people to give. We've ramped up things at our donor centers. We've increased incentive gifts for donors. We've introduced ways that they can increase their life points in a life points program. All sorts of different stops are being pulled out. We're pulling out all the stops here to try to get people to give. But another part and facet of that is we want people that are able to hold blood drives. If you are in a business, a church, an organization that does have people gathered together, if you want to champion a blood drive and you can be an advocate for us, we'll schedule a blood drive. We've got enough people right now to hold that drive, enough personnel.
You have the staff, right?
We have a staff. Usually it's very, very tight. We get our drives up to a certain amount of staff that we have.
Right.
We can have X amount of donors per day for the staff.
Because of the people who are working it, right.
We have some extra staff now, and we're able to hold blood drives in 2 or 3 weeks' notice. So I know that Belinda Belk, who's our Joplin area representative, would be happy with me that I put that out there, but contact us if you'd like to have a drive somewhere and you have the facilities to do so. Please contact us. We'll find a way to make it happen.
So somebody maybe has never thought about it or never done it before, it gives them that opportunity.
All you have to do is be able to ask people to donate. If you think you can ask people to donate blood, then you can probably hold a blood drive.
And you have a facility where you can come in with your staff and your equipment to do it.
Several different ways to do that. We can set up inside. We can bring our donor coaches, what we call our blood vessels, and we can set up outside and have a blood drive outside. All that we need is a restroom, accessible to a restroom,
Right.
And like I say, people that are willing to give.
Great. Well, let's give some background for our viewers about the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks. I know that we've visited before, but sometimes there's someone watching the show for the first time. So your area that you serve, we say Blood Center of the Ozarks. So what are we talking about?
I think number one off the bat is that to get this out of the way, Community Blood Center of the Ozarks donors provide all of the blood for patients at over 40 area hospitals. That includes all the hospitals in Joplin, Springfield, 12 hospitals in Northwest Arkansas. Our customers run all the way up to Rolla, Lake of the Ozarks area, down into Branson, Harrison, Arkansas, what you think of as the Ozarks probably, right? Over into Kansas even, Columbus, Kansas, the Maud Norman Hospital there. But important to note, again, that they get their blood from our donors and nobody else. So
it stays locally.
It does stay locally, and that's the key. Local donors and local patients, that's kind of what we hang our hats on.
And so the number of hospitals that you're serving throughout the region, obviously there's a supply and demand, but what type of reserves do you normally like to have in these? You know, we think of having it in the bank.
Right, we like to have at least a 3-day supply of blood on hand, and quite frankly, it's been a long time since we've had those kind of reserves. We've kind of been living hand to mouth here in the past couple of months. We're trying to build reserves up, but the way the schedules are looking right now and the diminished capacities that we're able to get, this may be something that's going to challenge us in the coming weeks and months. But we like to have at least a 3-day supply on hand. When we have less than a 1-day supply on hand, then we really start to worry. And right now we're under a critical appeal, as a matter of fact, for all type A and type O blood products. And that's you take A donors and O donors, put them together, and that comprises about 75% of the population. So there's a good chance that you're one of those two types and that you're able to help. But the needs are always present. I can just tell you, we can look off into the future in October, November, and I believe the mantra will be the same. The need is always present. We need blood, and we need people to give immediately when they're eligible and when they're able.
What about the process of communicating with the hospitals? You have a lot of hospitals. I'm sure you have a system for them to check their inventory or say, we anticipate this need, or you let them know. How does that work?
Our distribution department is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're able to stock hospitals with the blood they need during their regular inventory runs, and that's pretty easy. They call us or email us and tell us what they have in their reserves and what they need, and we put it in the vans and we drive it to them. We're into contact with them almost daily. We look at our inventory levels almost daily to see what we need and see how we can tweak the schedule to try to get what we need. Right. So we monitor everything very carefully, but our hospital relationships are pretty good. They understand the position we're in right now, so they're being very patient with us. They're trying to hold blood drives themselves in their area hospitals, and we do some really good drives there. So
their employees are helping out as well.
That's right. And we're trying to up the participation of those hospitals too, because they get it. Of anybody in the area, they get how blood affects the area, right? How blood affects lives. So they're being very responsive to our needs and to the challenges that we face.
Good. Well, you mentioned the centers, and I know Joplin has a center.
Yes.
And we have a student who had an opportunity to go out and visit the Joplin Center, so what we call a package, a story. So I think at this point we'll pause and let the viewers take a look at this story. Dylan Noblett went out and visited the Joplin Center, so let's see what he found.
Although many locations have put guidelines in place to restrict the amount of people allowed in at any given time, there is still a demand for blood. That's why the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks has taken safety measures to ensure the safety of their donors. Recently, I talked with Mary, a collection specialist at the North Park Mall location, about what changes the organization has undergone.
Well, we are practicing social distancing guidelines. So we do stop you at the door. We have you look over some information before you come in that has to do with exposure and everything else. We ask a few questions. When you come in, we do ask that you do wear a mask, and only those who are donating are allowed to come in, just because of all the safety measures that we've put in place.
The Community Blood Center also offers ways to speed up the process. You can still expect to be there from 30 minutes to an hour depending, but you can fill out a pre-donation questionnaire at home.
You can do what we call a quick pass before you come in. Just go to cbco.org, click on quick pass. You'll go through and answer your questions before you come in. You can either bring those on your phone that's in your email, and we'll scan that when you come in. It does cut down on some time for the whole process. Or you can print it out on your computer and bring the paperwork in with that barcode on it. You can show up. We do kind of prefer right at this time that you do go ahead and do an appointment, just because of all the safety measures that we're having to take. At times we, are a little busier than others, so if you show up, we will definitely work you in.
On top of being part of an organization that helps numerous people throughout the Ozarks, there are other health benefits to donating. Speaking as someone who donates regularly, you can expect to have your temperature, blood pressure, pulse, and hemoglobin counts checked before the donation. After the donation, these results, along with your cholesterol level, are available on the organization's website under your account. Also, giving a whole donation of red blood cells is equivalent to dropping 500 calories on the spot. Your body has to work to replace the lost blood, which is great for you. Although donors are not paid for volunteering, they are given what the organization calls life points, redeemable points for gift cards or charity donations of your choice. So don't let the current crisis stop you from donating blood. There will always be people in need for transfusions, and there isn't a hospital in this country that has consistent, adequate supplies. They are always in need. For KGCS TV, I'm Dylan Oblet.
As you can see, some of the basic information about giving blood through the Joplin Center, and of course you have other centers as you've mentioned. So this is one of the community places that's always in business, perhaps.
Right. The Joplin Center is open Monday through Friday, 11 to 6, and it's the one constant. We relied on our donor centers during the pandemic. When everything shut down and we weren't able to go out and take our show on the road, new mobile blood drives, we relied on our centers and our center donors, and we really put the pressure on our local donors, our donors in Joplin. If you're a regular donor to Community Blood Center, you probably got several calls and emails during this pandemic saying we need you. And we're not sorry for that, but we apologize for the inconvenience.
Trying to persuade people,
but
right?
Not for the persuasive nature of what was going on. We were really in that dire of a need. So if you are eligible to donate now, you can make an appointment or walk in at the Joplin Donor Center. It's right in front of the main entrance to the North Park Mall there on Rangeline Road.
Well, that question of eligibility, people might wonder, you mentioned schools and high schools, but what are some of the requirements? What do you say someone's eligible to give?
Really basics, the basics. 16 years of age or older. Now, if you're 16, you need written specific permission, and that's available on our website at cbco.org. So your parent or guardian fills that out, and you're good to go there. Otherwise, 17 years and up, you're able to go. You must weigh at least 110 pounds. You may not have given blood in the past 56 days.
So that's the time frame, every 56 days.
For red cells, every 56 days. And you need to be feeling well and healthy at the time of your donation. Now, that's important now more than ever, right? So if you've got the sniffles, if you've got a slight fever, if you've got the chills, a cough, a stomach ache, don't come in, wait and come in at another time. But if you're feeling good and you meet those qualifications in terms of weight, height, and weight, age, and distance between donations, you're good to give.
Good. And so when they go, as we saw in the story, there's a way of checking in and the process that you go through. But we think of blood, think of just red blood cells. There's a lot of things that you can get from blood.
Yeah, the old axiom, one donation saves 3 lives. The reason for that is nobody ever gets a whole blood transfusion anymore. It just doesn't happen. We divided the blood off into its separate component parts so that we can meet a patient's specific needs. For instance, red cells, the oxygen-carrying part of the blood. It's given in trauma cases. It's given to people that need red blood cell replacement therapies, things like that. The shelf life of red blood cells is 56 days. Another component of blood that we harvest is platelets. Platelets are the sticky part of your blood that helps your blood to clot. Whenever you get
a cut and it starts
sealing, scabs forms. That's the platelets and the fibrin in those platelets that's helping that. So cancer patients use platelets a lot. Their chemotherapy sometimes affects the body's ability to make platelets, which are made of the bone marrow. So they get those kinds of therapies. The thing about platelets is they're good for 5 days. So if you think about that, from the time that we harvest platelets, we have to test it, process it, distribute it, get it to a hospital, get it into somebody, and we've got a 5-day
days.
window to do it. So that's because they have to be stored at room temperature, promotes bacterial growth, things like that. So that's not a big window. So we're in constant need of platelets, and we've got a donation program in Springfield and a dedicated body of donors there that can give platelets every 2 weeks.
Wow.
You can give more often because you're not giving the red cells.
you're just
and
giving the platelet
losing
portion.
that iron. Yeah. It's the iron that causes you to be deferred for the 56-day time frame, right? But we just do whole blood operations at our Joplin Center and on most mobile blood drives. The other component is plasma. Plasma is sort of the liquid that the cells swim around in, right?
Right.
Plasma is used for burn victims. It's used to replace blood volume that's been lost during a trauma. The good thing about plasma, you can freeze it. It's the only component of blood that you can freeze, so you can use plasma for up to a year. So storing plasma is not a problem. It's getting enough plasma in that's
To meet the needs.
that's always the challenge, right? So those are the three main components, and that's why we say one donation can save 3 lives.
Right. Now, plasma is something that we've heard about with the COVID situation, and some people saying, well, they're looking for plasma for people who've had the disease. Is that something that's happening locally as well?
Yeah. We've placed a special emphasis on it, as a matter of fact. It's called convalescent plasma, or CCP. If a person has recovered from COVID, there's a theory that the plasma that they give contains antibodies that will help the most sick COVID patients. Sick at the time, if we give them that plasma therapy, it will help them to get better. It has shown to have a great deal of promise. The FDA has said we need to speed up this process where we get plasma, so we're going to fast track this as a experimental drug,
Right.
and start using it in a clinical setting, in a real life setting. So yeah, we're actively looking for convalescent plasma donations. If you have a medical proof that you've had COVID and have recovered for a period of 14 days, you're eligible to give plasma. Now, we're only doing this at our Springfield Center and our center in Northwest Arkansas in Springdale. So you may have to travel a little bit, but if you consider the potential impact that your donation may have on a really, really sick person, probably worth the trip. So contact us if you've had that. We're also incentivizing our donors to give. Everybody that does manage to give convalescent plasma within a week's period is entered to win a $500 Visa gift card.
Wow.
That's not bad. We give one of those away every single week to just our convalescent plasma donors, and we'll continue to do that until further notice.
So if someone has questions, it's just a matter of calling, or I know you have a website as well. So let's talk about your website, how they can find out the details. We're obviously talking information here, but probably a lot more information on the website.
Sure. First of all, kind of a funny, for convalescent plasma, we consider it so important, our organization considers it so important, that when you call up and want to talk to somebody about convalescent plasma, we're hooking you straight in with our executive director, Anthony Roberts, who wants to know every single person that this might be for. So it's that important to us. Our website is really robust. It's cbco.org, and you go to the website and you can find out all sorts of information. Number one, if you click on the top of the Donate Blood tab, you can find a drive that's coming to your area. A really easy interface on there. You can find a blood drive according to city, according to county, according to date range. So you click on that and you find a drive, and you'll be able to sign up right then. There you see where our donor centers and examples of that there. So that's a really easy interface. You can find out about events that are coming up, promotional events. And I can tell you, since the pandemic, one of our answers to potential shortages and the challenges that we're having is we're really increasing the promotional items that we're giving away. Now at every drive, mobile drives, city drives, drives at our centers, we're giving away the t-shirts. You're going to get a t-shirt and probably something more, because we're layering all sorts of
So way to really say
promotional
thank you.
items.
We appreciate it.
Oh boy, we really appreciate it, and so you can find out about promotional events there. You can frequently ask questions. There may be questions about, can I give blood because I'm diabetic? Which, by the way, the answer is yes, you can. If it's controlled by medicine or by diet, you may do that. If you've got questions about your donation eligibility, there's lots of frequently asked questions there. All sorts of things, and history of blood, history of the organization, job opportunities, employment opportunities. I know right now we've got several.
Openings in your
openings for anything from truck drivers to lab technicians to actual donor room services employees, the phlebotomists and such. So all sorts of information and the history of the organization. Just it's a really robust website and something we hope that people use.
You'll find out information and want to find out. And some of the questions some people might have, well, they haven't given before. Let's go back to John Smith or Susan Jones. You know, I've never given blood before. I don't know what type of blood I have. When I see these appeals for A or O negative, you know, what do I do?
If you don't
want to
know,
say check me out?
if you don't know what type you have, give once. We'll send you a donor card. It'll have your type right on it. We probably can't tell you at the time of your donation, but very soon after we'll get that blood tested, we'll get it typed, and we'll send you a donor card with that type. So that's one advantage. You know, I'm amazed whenever I give this statistic that it doesn't sound right. You would think that the number one reason people don't donate blood is because their fear of needles.
I don't like it stuck in the arm, right?
Nobody likes to have a needle stuck in them. I'm here to assure you, though, it's just kind of a stick and a sting. It's not really very painful, and the good you do and the goodness that you'll feel after you get done is well worth it. But it's not the number one reason people don't give. The number one reason people don't give is they've never been asked to give. So when we're looking for advocates to hold blood drives, that's one of the first questions that we ask. If Betty calls up and says, I'm going to hold a blood drive at my church. Well, Betty, are you willing to ask people to give blood? Because that's the number one thing that we need to do to get people to give.
You've got to bring them in and say, I want to do it. Yeah.
You've got to get in their face, right? You can't just put up a flyer and then hope that they show up. You've got to advocate. You've got to make the general and direct ask. If you can do that, then you're going to have a probably successful blood drive. But, you know, if you fit the qualifications, if you've never given blood before, what I urge people to do is to just try it once. If you don't like it, you never have to do it again. It's not for everybody. We understand that. Far and away, people do like it. At least they don't mind it. And whenever they walk away from it, they might think, there was an hour of my time I'll never get back. But later on in the day, it will hit them. Number one, how easy it was, relatively painless. Number two, what a tremendous difference that you made in a person's life. You helped somebody recover and get better to see their grandkids again. Maybe to go on and get married and have kids of their own. It's just
the impact of what they're doing.
The impact is limitless to the act that you just undertook. So that's what brings you back after that. If you think about that, you think, it only took an hour of my time and I did all this. So that's really the main takeaway that we see in people and what turns people into frequent givers.
So they may not know who's receiving at the other end, but they know that somewhere along the line that's going to help someone.
It's funny you mention that. We've got a pretty new program that we instituted just before the pandemic hit. And it's little green heart tags that are on every bag of blood that is distributed to our area hospitals. And it's a program that lets a blood recipient take that tag and the information on that, go to a website called thankthedonor.com, enter the blood number information, and they can write a note of thanks to the person that gave them that blood. What we'll do then is we'll get that aggregated, send it back to the donor. We can send it to the healthcare workers. We can use it on our social media platforms and media platforms. But it's a great way to actually connect. So say you give blood and 2 or 3 weeks later you receive an email from the person that got that blood. Maybe their baby got it.
Right.
Maybe, you know, and we're starting to see these things kind of roll in now. The program took off kind of in fits and starts at the first of the year. We're starting now really to gain some momentum with the Thank the Donor program. We really think it's going to make a difference.
So the recipients are taking the time to say thank you. That it really
they are.
They want to have that person on their end too.
And that's just the greatest feeling in the world. If you could put a face and maybe a name to the blood that you gave, wow, what a great feeling.
And I know you recognize the donors. You said life points, so they can come on frequent donor program, basically. Somebody might be curious, well, who's given the most? Do you have records in this area?
We do have records of that, and you asked me that just before we went on the air here, and I know we've had donors that have gone over the 500 donation mark, maybe even 500 donations.
500 times.
Yes, 500 single donations. Now, a lot of apheresis donors reach those marks fairly quickly because they can give more often. They can give every 2 weeks up to 25 times a year. So they reach those marks fairly quickly. For a whole blood donor, like a person that would come into the Joplin Donor Center, you think about 500 donations, that is really a lifetime of giving. You consider that you can give 6 donations a year, and that's if you're giving every 56 days pretty religiously, right? You can give 6 times a year. to give that many donations is just astounding. It takes years and years, and our 200 donations get yourself into our CBCO Hall of Fame. We have over, I believe, 350 people, including many here in the Joplin area, in our CBCO Hall of Fame. Their names are etched on our wall at the donor center, and we're just so proud of our frequent donors and all of our donors. Really, they do a good job, and they've really been holding us up through this pandemic.
Right. So not only the frequent donors, but you're looking for the new donors. So as we're recording this program, what message would you most like to get out to people maybe who are watching who haven't done it before, but they're thinking about it still?
First of all, I'd like to thank our colleges, universities, and high schools. They are trying their best to try to accommodate us and try to have blood drives. And it's not an easy thing to do, you know. We have had high schools that have said, I'm sorry, we can't have any outside organizations in. We have had colleges that have been the same way. Missouri Southern, I've got to give them some kudos. We entered into negotiations with them. It's because we want to hold blood drives
you've
here
had
on
them
campus,
here before, right?
even when you're not at full student strength and things like that. We felt that it was important. I'll tell you, we had discussions that went all the way up to the president's level, and finally decided, yes, we're going to have a blood drive. It's coming up, and as a matter of fact, September 21st at the Student Center here, Student Union, and it'll be September 21st. So you can go to our website, cbco.org, make an appointment to give at that drive. We'll have, of course, a great T-shirt, probably some extra things too. But we're really proud of our colleges and universities and high schools. I'm proud of our donor base too. They've kept us going through this pandemic. We're going to continue to ask for their support, and again, local patients depend on it.
Well, Chris, I'd like to thank you very much for visiting today, providing this information for our viewers, and once again, refer them to your website, which has a lot of information as well.
Sure, it's cbco.org, and Judy, anytime. I just appreciate the opportunity to speak in this kind of a format where we can sit down and talk instead of talking 20-second sound bites.
Right, give them the details.
Right, just instead of just the high points, we get some of the backstory, and that's a great format as well.
Great, well, thank you very much, and I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on the station. We'll see you.